It would have taken a tornado to tear Simpson away from video games. We had a strict schedule. Every Saturday night at 9, Sim and I met like clockwork on a private voice chatting platform. It was an important tradition, and we kept it going ever since Sim moved to the other side of the country. Our moms both hated the hours, but they knew it was our only shot at staying friends, so we never caught too much crap for it. Sim and I were friends since kindergarten, so we always felt like we never should have been split up in the first place. Plus, it was summer. Neither of us had any plans but sleep, sushi, and maybe some games on Sunday, if we didn't catch crap for it. That night we spent a couple hours on an RPG, then moved over to Fortnite. That had always been Sim's favorite. There was a mechanic in the game that kept track of how many times a player got a battle royale and how many kills you have. As per usual, Sim and I dominated the leaderboards every time. We were cocky kids, and we let the other randoms know it by talking a metric ton of trash. Sim had no problem telling a kid to hurt himself in the chat. Looking back, it was pretty messed up. Even then, it was a little heavy. I had sarcastically warned him again and again, saying it, but it was a delicate balance. We bond over those online battles, and it was always brought us a bit closer together. So I never wanted to ruin by sounding like a baby. Some guys and girls took it personal for sure. There were arguments and cusses and tirades and tears. Sim powered through it all. He took a lot of pride in berating and beating down the little guys who thought they could buy this game and beat him. But poor Simmy never had to deal with any junk quite like this. Sometime after 1, on a cold night, he logged off out of nowhere. A couple seconds later, I got a text. Power's out. A moment later, I should be right back. Looks like my neighbors still have lights. It all happened before. Sim's family's house was situated on a faulty grid, and it was prone to surge and seizure throughout the night. Even as a high school kid, Sim had petitioned his local city to fix it. His mom had swelled with pride over that one, even though she knew it was just so Sim could spend some more time gaming. 16 minutes later, I got a third text. Good to go, my microphone's not working though. In seconds, Sim had booted his computer back up and joined my party. We queued for a game and played a few more as the hours of the early morning started to wind their way down. Somehow though, it seemed that with each game, Sim's skill had seriously started to decrease. He was not trash-talking players anymore. In fact, he was not saying much of anything. I supplied the background noise by prattling on about strategy and timing via a one-way conversation on audio chat. I knew his mic was busted, but I still expected to hear something, anything from him. He was not a quiet kid, especially when he was caffeinated. Around 4, we were starting to lose our games to lack of sleep. I let Sim know that it had to be time for me to log. Without a word, Sim City, as he called himself, signed off. Weird. That was all I was prepared to call it. Weird. There were reasonably explanations for every bit of it. Could have been a lack of sleep or frustration over a bad game. By the time I signed offline and headed to bed, it was not even a second thought in my mind. I woke up at 7 to the screaming sound of my phone and my mom. The police sounded so persistent that they almost wanted to come and pick me up themselves. We hustled down to the station house and sat in a waiting room before a portly gentleman who looked ready to split his buttons led us down to his office. Then he spoke 7 simple words that were enough to shoot some ice through my veins. Your friend Simpson was shot last night, was all he said. After that, he studied me for a long time. My face was full of shock, undoubtedly. Shock followed by a long wave of fear and sadness. I cried a lot. But then I was ashamed. He continued, "I am sorry to say he succumbed to his wounds, and his assailant is at large. There is some evidence on his computer that you two talked last night. That is why our police department was contacted and why you were brought down the station this morning. We need some answers." My mom gave me a look. I told the officer everything I knew. Together with the police department in Sims City on speakerphone, we pieced together the puzzle. Sims power was cut at exactly 12:56 a.m., but there was no issues with the grid. The way it was done, someone had to cut the electricity locally. Foreplay definitely, wheezed the chubby cop's mustache. When the perpetrator was finished, he stepped inside. 2 dirtied boot prints were recovered from the welcome mat. After that, the officer asserted that the perpetrator murdered Sim and every member of his family. The entire thing was done with a semi-automatic, maybe with a silencer, and there was no evidence of patience or pause. They were shot like it was an execution. The killer simply walked inside, stepped into every bedroom, and shot 6 or 7 rounds into the occupants. The officers do not even think he stepped inside the bedrooms to see if they died. They did. A 110 power was restored to the property. 113, the computer in the basement was logged into the network. 115, a single text message was sent from Sim's phone to mine. The unknown subject left blood-stained fingerprints that are still being scanned. At 4, the electricity was cut off again. The subject presumably then left the property, and an hour later a note was discovered by the neighbor on the front door. It read, in sloppily juvenile handwriting, "SimCity has been eliminated by Player 1. A suspect was never identified. The DNA and fingerprints did not match a single search in the crime database. Any recent attempts to trace relevant IP addresses have been blocked or rerouted by sophisticated software, and the boot prints the officer found were about as common and useless as any others. Now, I'm scared to sign in every Saturday at 9, because sometimes I still see SimCity online." I hope everybody enjoyed this story for Halloween. I thought it was appropriate. I want to give shout outs to Matt Richardson, aka Firebreath1. You can go ahead and check him out on his subreddit if you'd like to hear more stories by him. Also, thank you so much to Ghostly, who played Sim City, for the video.